A teenage girl's pro-Sophie Cunningham sign caused the Seattle Storm owner to shout at her. The fan was left crying after being made to put it away. That's the post that has been making the rounds on basketball Twitter for the past 2 days, and it's not some inflated online rumor either. The truth about what actually transpired courtside in Seattle is worse than the headline suggests. And compared to a single game score, it says a lot more about this league at the moment. If you appreciate this content, consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. Believe it or not, more than 85% of viewers haven't subscribed yet. It's free and only takes a second, but it means the world to us. So, did you subscribe already? Great. Thank you so much for your support. Now, back to the video.
And then she told us that we were effing insane,
and she's like, and she went like
yes.
insane.
Yeah.
She's like, you better stop this
and stop pulling
shit.
this. Yeah.
And
for you guys
I
to
hope
come
God
here
can
and
save
pull
you.
This. Yeah.
She said for you to come here and pull this shit.
Yeah.
She said the word.
Yeah.
Did she say effing insane or the fucking
No,
insane?
she said the word. Yeah.
And nobody around you spoke up for you.
No.
So,
no.
I will say, Annalie, when I came over, you were in tears.
Yeah, I've never been yelled at like that. I mean, I've had people hate on me on the internet, but like it doesn't really affect me as much because it's just people online. But that just took me by surprise because I thought she was gonna be nice, and then she started like screaming at us.
At a WNBA game, a teenage girl carried a sign. No one was attacked by it. Not a single player was mentioned by name. It simply expressed gratitude to Sophie Cunningham for advocating for female athletes. A Seattle Storm co-owner approached her mid-aim and instructed her to put it away, according to the fans seated there, in front of a completely sold-out audience. By the time it was over, security had been called in, and the girl was crying. Take a moment to consider that. At a basketball game, a grown adult who actually has a stake in a professional sports team pursued a child because she loved a sign.
In that story with ESPN, you talked about wanting to protect young girls who shouldn't have to go against biological men. Just can you expand your viewpoint on that?
I mean, I think I said what I said. I think it's kind of common sense. And I think I'll always believe in that. I think it's really important to protect children. And that's little girls who are also involved in that category. And so I stand on what I said, and I always believe that.
Yeah. Do you see your advocacy on that, like taking any form going forward?
You know, I don't know. I'm not a very political person, but I do have beliefs. I have morals, and I'll always stand on those and be true to who I am. And I think people are going to take it how they want to take it, but I've never even really said anything about that. And so when it comes just to protecting young girls in sport and women in sport, I feel very strongly about that. I think that's why you have Title IX. That's why you have some of the greats in women's sports. If Title IX and women's sports weren't protected, then you wouldn't hear about any type of women in sport. And so I think in the future, it's just really important to protect.
Do you think, I guess along the line like that, it goes against perhaps, some people might say, hey, for the trans community, this could be something that could come back on us or be targeted against us. Like, how do you, I guess, view that sort of critique?
You know, like I said, I extend love, and I don't dislike anyone. Like, I think there is room for absolutely everyone here, and I think there's room to love everyone. And
a few weeks back, Sophie Cunningham was directly questioned about safeguarding women's sports during an ESPN program. She didn't try to soften it into something safer or avoid it. She stated unequivocally that she wants to keep young girls safe in locker rooms, that they shouldn't have to compete against biological guys, and that she will always hold that belief regardless of the response.
How the left is completely intolerant and the actual hateful ones. This woman is not an owner of a basketball team. She's an owner of a left-wing, radical, political activist group that happens to play basketball. Because this team has endorsed Kamala Harris for president. They have promoted trans rights on their website and their merchandise. And clearly, they hold a double standard and allow people to hold signs like this, but belittle young girls that support their sports remaining female. I don't expect them to do this, but I would really like to see the WNBA protect and stand up for fans just like these two young girls from hate and intolerance. And if you're
no one in particular, a rival or a comrade, was attacked. It was simply a straightforward response to a straightforward question given in a composed manner, as one might anticipate from someone who has given it careful thought rather than spontaneously. However, Context in this league rarely remains neutral for very long, so whether Sophie stated it aloud or not, that response had a name connected to it.
Yeah, I think it has been so fun. I played with BG for 6 years, and so I know her like the back of my hand. And as of late, she's been playing really good. She's been playing like OG Brittney. I'm there to love, but I'm also there to love biological women. And I think that there are rights that need to be protected. And like I said, I'm going to stand true to that. I'll never falter in my beliefs in that, but I have never once said I hated the trans community. Like I said, I think there's space for everyone.
If you watched any of the Fever's games versus the Connecticut Sun this season, you already know who many fans associated such remarks with. For the past 3 seasons, Brittney Griner and Caitlin Clark have had a difficult on-court relationship. Body checks that went unreported, a bench moment from the previous season that fans are still debating frame by frame, and an officiating style that consistently deviated from the norm each time these two played together. Thus, when Cunningham, Clark's closest teammate and the team's most outspoken defender, got up and declared, "Men shouldn't be playing in women's sports," the fan base didn't require a translator to make the connections. The majority of her message was conveyed by the timing alone.
Some fans at the game booed Cunningham when she checked into the game. One Seattle Storm player even showed up pre-game wearing a shirt that read, "Trans rights are human rights." After the game, Storm coach Sonia Rahman was asked about the situation.
Seattle and this organization and Climate Pledge, we always want to be an area where people feel welcome coming into this building. I think we've always done a really good job with that. So I know our organization was, working closely with Climate Pledge and with security to just make sure that, everybody feels safe and included and welcome when they walk in this door. And from what I understand, that was...
The idea that Cunningham's remarks were directed exclusively at her has never been addressed by Griner. Even while she would never choose a different teammate standing next to her, she did say in a different interview a few days before this whole thing blew up that playing against Cunningham is incredibly frustrating. Make what you want out of that. However, the response to Cunningham's remarks on the internet wasn't minimal, and it wasn't quiet for very long.
We have Sophie Cunningham, a female athlete herself, very accomplished in her own right, coming forth and speaking that truth that men shouldn't play in women's sports. We want to protect women and girls, and the backlash she is receiving from Democrats and left-wing figures across the country is astonishing.
It was all over the place in roughly 48 hours. The article was picked up by USA Today. The following morning, ESPN included portions on it in a number of shows. It was given its own national segment by Fox News. Whether the league likes to hear it or not, the White House press secretary officially stated that Cunningham was on the correct side of a topic on which the majority of Americans already concur. That is a significant response to a WNBA role player's candid response to one question in a feature interview. That is a national dialogue that extends far beyond the realm of basketball. Furthermore, Sophie never requested that any of it occur in the manner that it did.
I can't applaud her enough. This notion that you're hating on the trans community because you are not a proponent of them participating in female sports is utterly ridiculous. Sophie Cunningham said every word right on the money. There's no hate involved. There's only love we're talking about. But what happened to loving girls who are born biologically as girls? What about their rights? What about fairness associated to them? Leah Thomas, I'm going to keep bringing that name up. 400th plus in the world competing as a male. Transitions to female, and he was number 1. If we're gonna act like transitioning from male to female doesn't involve an advantage for that trans athlete, I have nothing to say to you. You're not exercising common sense.
People should actually focus more on what she did next, because it's what sets her apart from practically every other athlete who has ever been in this situation. Days later, reporters returned to her, obviously hoping that she would soften it into something less dangerous and particular, clarify it, or walk it back. None of that was done by her. She said it nearly verbatim, adding that she doesn't hate anyone and that she truly thinks there is space for everyone, but she won't alter her true beliefs simply because a group of people asked her to. That isn't how someone pursues controversy in order to gain attention. That's a person who was asked a fair question, answered honestly, and when the pressure finally arrived, refused to behave as though she didn't mean it.
Comes out last week and talks about her beliefs, which I do think is very rare, especially being as young as she is. And quite honestly being brave to share something she knows is going to get picked apart a million times and then standing by it. That's refreshing, especially from a young woman.
And that leads us to Seattle, where the whole thing changed from being an online dispute to something that happened to a real child at a real game in front of real people who witnessed it happen in real time. On paper, the Fever's game against the Storm on Tuesday night should have been just about basketball. A modest throng assembled outside Climate Pledge Arena before the tip-off. Some are coming to directly support Cunningham, while others are there to support a Washington ballot question that has been gaining traction throughout the state regarding equity in girls' athletics. Some donned clothes bearing the XX and XY insignia, while others carried signs. It wasn't directed at any particular Storm player. It was about more than just one WNBA player's remarks. It was about Cunningham, the larger discussion she had entered weeks before, and a policy discussion that has been developing for some time.
She's covering your sign.
Two of those supporters entered the arena and sat courtside with a banner expressing gratitude to Cunningham for standing up for girls. Brandy Cruz of Undivided Pod, who had a direct conversation with them thereafter, claimed that a woman had come up to them mid-game and labeled them utterly insane, then had them taken out of their seats by security. The woman was later recognized by the fans as Celeste Caton, the Storm's minority owner. One of them claimed that the speed at which a night at a basketball game escalated into a combative and intimate exchange left her in tears before the altercation had even ended.
There's her signs that said, like, we love Sophie, like, thank you, Sophie, for speaking up. And so we were holding them, just watching the game. Again, like, we were being super great. We hadn't said anything to anyone else. We were being super respectful. We were just holding our signs and cheering for both teams. And this lady, older lady, comes up to us. And she comes up to us, and at first I think she's going to be nice. And then she asks, like, what are you guys doing? Something like that. And then it was like, Jesus loves everyone. That's what she told us. And I was like, oh, I know. Like, I'm religious. Like, I know. Like, I know. Nice. Yeah. And she's like, oh, I hope Jesus can forgive you for what sin you've done. And like something like that. And then she told us that we were effing insane. And
she's like, and she went like insane.
Yeah.
She's like, you better stop this.
And stop pulling this. Yeah.
Now consider the asymmetry that exists in the center of everything. Outside the arena, a group of people representing various viewpoints on this particular problem assembled. Additionally, no one from the group went to the opposing side of the demonstration to provide them with any information. She is entirely correct in that quote. Nobody in the audience is arguing that she shouldn't be permitted to enter her own arena wearing whatever she wants. However, a co-owner of the home team challenged a teenage fan who was silently holding a thank you sign for a player on the visiting side, telling him to put it away in front of thousands of spectators.
And he's going to talk to you a little bit, all the way up from California.
We are Women Are Real. I had this crazy idea on Thursday that I wanted to support Sophie. We've gone all around California supporting female athletes, and I just said, we can go to Seattle and we can support female athletes. And Brandy was right there ready to help us, and thank you all for showing up. We just have simple belief that women are adult human females, and women deserve their own female-only sports and spaces, especially prisons and domestic violence shelters. Yes. We are 118.
Here's the obvious question to ask yourself. A garment that makes a political statement on the other side of that same issue receives nothing but a standing ovation from the audience, whereas a sign that merely reads, "Thank you for speaking up for girls," is enough to get a fan yelled at by ownership. What does that genuinely tell you about the current state of this organization? The sign wasn't impolite. In fact, it wasn't. It didn't specifically target any Storm players because it didn't do that either. In reality, that sign only agreed with Sophie Cunningham. Everyone who attends a Storm game deserves to feel welcome regardless of what they believe, said Jenny Gilder, the majority owner, in a statement acknowledging that a co-owner had made remarks to two fans and offering an apology. Take note of everything that was deliberately avoided in the sentence. Caton was not specifically mentioned. What was actually stated to the fans at the time was not explained. Furthermore, it never addressed whether there would be any actual accountability beyond a well-crafted press release or why a co-owner felt entitled to confront paying customers over a sign in the first place. It sounded just like the kind of statement designed to subtly erase a difficult tale, not one designed to truly address what transpired on that concourse.
I apologize for the way I look. I literally just left CrossFit, don't have any recording material here, but breaking news, Storm co-owner Celeste Keaton was fined and suspended from attending the next 5 home games of the Seattle Storm following the incident with Fever fans last night, in which she made a comment about one of their players' supporters. That came directly from the league. So that's the latest on this developing story. So there it is.
And when you take away all the surrounding noise, that's actually the core of the whole thing. None of this was earned by Sophie Cunningham. She gave an honest response to a question, defended it twice when pressure was applied, and then witnessed a teenage admirer handled like a threat just for publicly agreeing with her. At a basketball game, a team owner shouldn't yell at anyone because of a shirt or a sign. Completely stop. Whichever side of the argument they choose, the fact that it only affected Cunningham supporters tells you about all you need to know about how bias tolerance is in some areas of this league.
We have Sophie Cunningham, who's willing to stand 10 toes down, and Sophie Cunningham was quoted as saying, "I want to protect young girls in a locker room or young girls in sports who shouldn't have to go against biological men." Megan Rapinoe's such a fucking bird. Like, she's such a fucking bird. Biological men should not be playing in sports with biological men, period. End of discussion. It shouldn't be controversial. It shouldn't be a cause for debate. It shouldn't be labeled transphobia because you don't want to have to compete with people who were born biological men and have biological advantages that women will never have and never be able to have for the rest of their life. I always ask the question, why do we never see like biological women transitioning to be men and playing in men's sports? Why don't we ever see that? Why is it always biological men transitioning to women and coming over to play with women?
Additionally, this did not occur in a vacuum, which contributes to the manner it has spread. It happened approximately a week after another WNBA player was subtly benched with suspiciously fewer minutes, just after her own remarks about defending women's sports began to garner attention throughout the league. A silent rotation adjustment here, an ambiguous sentence there. Nothing official, nothing that can withstand serious examination if you press for it. There is never a word that needs to be spoken aloud in a locker room, just enough subtle pressure is placed so that everyone else watching the league understands the message.
Trans people live! Nobody has a problem with trans people and what they do on their own time. It's just in regards to what Sophie said is when it comes to sports. Women, biological women should play sports against biological women. Men should play against men because the simple reason for it is because scientifically just men are stronger, faster, bigger than...
Thus, when internet users begin to question why the WNBA appears to accommodate almost every viewpoint other from Cunningham's, that question continues coming up because of this occurrence in Seattle. Her remarks weren't very extreme. By no means is the desire for fair competition on the court and the protection of girls' sports a fringe viewpoint. The majority of Americans do, in fact, agree with her on this particular topic, according to the survey. It's that you seem to become a target in some rooms associated with this league if you say it aloud, calmly, honestly, and without ever naming anyone. She has already been shown twice on camera in front of reporters, obviously hoping for a different response that she will repeat herself word for word rather than giving anyone a softer, safer version of what she actually believes, whether it's a coaching staff member discreetly cutting your minutes on the court or a co-owner approaching a sobbing teenager and telling her to put her sign away in front of a packed arena. Sophie is no longer the main question that looms over all of this. It's about whether the league and its individual teams will continue to treat her supporters differently than everyone else, or if Wednesday's well-crafted apology was sufficient to make one awkward headline subtly vanish before the next one unavoidably appears somewhere else.